She whispered it so softly that no one else heard, not the men in suits, not the driver waiting by the black car, not the guests walking past with careless smiles, only him, only the man everyone feared, and even he almost missed it. The driver has a gun, don't get in, and for a second, the world seemed to pause around those quiet words. She stood there in her simple uniform, her hands steady as she adjusted his tie like it was just another routine task, like she wasn't risking everything in that moment, like she wasn't speaking a truth that could destroy her if it was heard by the wrong person. To everyone else, she was invisible, just a maid, just another face that blended into the background, someone who cleaned rooms, carried trays, and kept her head down, someone no one ever listened to, and that was exactly why she had survived this long. But inside, she was not weak. Inside she carried a quiet strength shaped by years of silence, years of humiliation, years of watching powerful people treat others like they were nothing. The man in front of her was known for that same kind of power, a name people didn't say out loud, a presence that made rooms go quiet, a man who never questioned anything because nothing had ever gone wrong for him, not once, not until now. He looked at her for a brief moment, just a glance, but something in her eyes made him pause, not fear, not panic, just a calm certainty that didn't match her position, and without saying anything, he gave the smallest nod, a silent acknowledgement that he had heard her. Then he turned and walked toward the car, exactly as expected, exactly as planned, because sometimes the only way to survive is to pretend you don't know what you know. She stepped back, lowering her gaze again, returning to the role everyone expected from her, invisible, quiet, harmless, but inside, her heart was beating faster, not from fear, but from the weight of what she had just done. She had seen the gun earlier, by accident, when she passed by the driver's side, a quick glimpse, just enough to understand that something was wrong, something was about to happen, and for a moment she had hesitated, because speaking up meant stepping into a world that could destroy her, but staying silent meant becoming part of something she could never live with. So she chose to speak, even if no one believed her, even if nothing changed, because sometimes doing the right thing is not about the outcome, it's about who you are when everything else is taken away. He reached the car, his hand already moving toward the door, his expression calm, unreadable, and for a second, it looked like he would get in anyway, like her warning meant nothing, like power had made him immune to doubt, but then he stopped, just for a fraction of a second, a pause so small that no one else noticed, and in that pause, everything shifted. He stepped back slightly, adjusting his cuff as if something minor had caught his attention, and then, without raising suspicion, he spoke to the driver in a low voice, something casual, something ordinary, but enough to change the rhythm of the moment. The driver's expression flickered, just for a second, just enough for someone paying attention to notice, and that was all he needed. Within moments, everything unfolded quietly, efficiently, like a plan being reversed instead of executed. Men who had been standing at a distance moved closer, not with panic, but with purpose, and the situation that had been carefully arranged began to fall apart without noise, without chaos. She stayed where she was, her head lowered, her hands now still, as if nothing had happened, but inside, she felt the shift, the invisible line that had just been crossed, the moment where something terrible had been stopped before it could begin. The powerful man who had almost stepped into that car now stood still, watching as the truth revealed itself piece by piece, and for the first time in a long time, he was not in control, not fully, because someone else had seen something he had missed, someone he would never have noticed if she had not spoken. The driver was taken away quietly, no scene, no explanation, just a silent removal that left more questions than answers, and the people around pretended not to see, because in that world, survival often depends on looking the other way. He turned slightly, his eyes scanning the area, not searching, not openly, but there was a question there now, a quiet awareness that something had changed, and for a brief moment, his gaze returned to her, still standing where she had been, still playing the role everyone expected, but no longer invisible to him. Days passed after that moment, and for her, life did not suddenly become easier. She was still a maid, still overlooked, still moving through the same spaces where power lived and ordinary people were ignored, but something inside her had shifted, a quiet sense of purpose, a reminder that even the smallest voice can matter when it speaks at the right time. She didn't expect anything in return, she didn't look for recognition, because she had learned long ago that doing the right thing does not always bring rewards, but it brings something else, something deeper, a kind of peace that cannot be taken away. The man she had warned continued his life, his influence unchanged on the surface, his reputation intact, but inside, something had changed for him too, something subtle, something that made him look more closely at the people around him, something that made him question what he had always taken for granted. He began to notice the invisible ones, the ones who moved quietly, the ones who saw everything but said nothing, and slowly, without announcing it, he started to change the way he moved through the world. She noticed it in small ways, decisions that protected rather than destroyed, moments where power was used differently, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to make a difference. She remained patient, continuing her work, continuing her quiet life, because she understood that real change does not happen all at once, it grows slowly, like something fragile that needs time to take root. There were still moments of doubt, moments when she questioned whether any of it mattered, whether one small act could truly change anything, but each time, she remembered that moment by the car, the second when everything could have gone wrong, and she knew that it had mattered. Time moved forward, as it always does, and the world around her continued to shift in ways both seen and unseen, until one day, something unexpected happened, something that she had never imagined for herself. She was called into an office, not the kind she usually entered, not to clean or to serve, but to sit, to be seen, to be spoken to, and when she walked in, she found him there, the man she had warned, the man who now looked at her not as a servant, but as someone who had changed his life. He didn't speak immediately, and neither did she, because some moments don't need words right away, they need understanding, they need space to exist. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, steady, but different from before. There was something in it that had not been there that day, something human, something real. He didn't thank her in a grand way, he didn't make promises or dramatic gestures, he simply acknowledged what she had done, clearly, honestly, and in that acknowledgement, there was respect, something she had not felt from people like him before. He offered her a choice, not an order, not a command. But a real choice, to step into a different life, to leave behind the invisibility that had defined her for so long, to use her strength in a way that could help others, quietly, meaningfully, without losing who she was. She listened, carefully, her expression calm, her thoughts steady, because she had learned not to rush decisions, not to be carried away by moments that seemed too big to be real. And after a pause, after considering everything she had been, everything she had endured, and everything she could become, she gave her answer, not loudly, not dramatically, but with the same quiet strength that had guided her from the beginning. And in that moment, the balance shifted once again, not through force, not through power, but through truth, through patience, through the simple act of doing what is right when no one is watching. Because sometimes, the people who change everything are not the loudest, not the strongest, but the ones who stand quietly, who see clearly, and who choose to act when it matters most, even if no one ever knows their name.